today they will be providing us with a wonderful play based on an early church father, Athanasius. So let's give our attention to the 7th and 8th grade as they teach us a small part of church history.
We believe in one God, Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth. Perhaps you have heard those words before in church. It is the beginning of the Nicene Creed, recited by Christians all over the world to declare what we believe. But have you ever thought about what they mean or heard the story of how they came to be? It is one of the best stories in all of history, so gather around as we tell it to you and listen close. It begins in Alexandria, Egypt, with a young boy named Athanasius in the year 297 AD. This was a hard time for Christianity, as the last great persecution under the Emperor Diocletian was happening. However, some years after Athanasius' birth, when he was a teenager, Constantine became emperor of Rome and made Christianity legal, giving the church a new opportunity to grow. The church was faced with a new threat during these days, however, a threat from within, and it was Athanasius who stood alone to defend against it. He was a very young religious boy who was raised by Christian parents and who went to church regularly. But our story really begins with Athanasius and his friends at the beach.
Hey Marcus, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know. That's why I asked you. What do you want to do? Well, what do you want to do? Oh, you're hopeless. We could build a sand palace. Yeah, but it's too hot to build anything. And besides, what would we use as tools? We could play tag. It's too hot to play tag. The sand is burning. We could go in the water. Yeah, but we do that every day. And besides, it's too hot to go in the water. Too hot to go in the water? What are you, a lizard? What are you, a fish? What is that? Is that a chicken?
I'm bread, Russian. I'm bread, Russian chicken. Look at me swim.
Fred? I thought it was Frederick. I guess he has a brother. Weird. Hey, the chicken had the right idea. What, being eaten? No, getting in the water. What if we play a game? Yeah, like what? Church. Church? That sounds so boring. Yeah, all you do in church is sit and sweat. No, but we could play baptism. Were they dunk you in the water? Yes, I've heard the baptism liturgy hundreds of times. Here, Cornelia, you can be the catechumen, the new Christian, and I'll be the priest. You always get to be the leader, Athanasius. Why can't I be? Because you don't know the words. You can't just make up any words. You have to do it just like it's done at church. Okay, well then what do I do? You can be the congregation. I'll tell you what to say. And Marcus, you can help me be my co-priest. We'll be sitting in the hot sun. And if it means we get to get into the water, I'm in. Alright, yes, let's try it. You lead the way, Athanasius.
As the children began to play church, Alexander, the bishop of Alexandria, was sitting home by his window, reading the Bible. However, he happened to look up at one point and noticed the children playing. He had never seen children playing as they did, and as he watched, he suddenly realized with horror they were pretending to baptize someone. Now, baptism is a very serious matter and not to be taken lightly. Not knowing what was happening and being quite concerned at the children's casual attitude towards church, he sent a servant to bring the children to him.
Come with me. Athanasius, come ahead.
All right, now, children, I want to know just exactly what you're doing out there.
We were just playing church, Bishop Alexander, sir. Yes, sir. That's right, sir.
I can see that. And whose idea was it, this playing church?
His.
Are you the leader of this game, boy?
Yes, sir, I am.
Well, explain yourself.
Well, sir, we were playing baptism, and I was being priest, and Cornelia here was being catechumen.
And just what were you saying as you baptized this girl?
You have bestowed upon us regeneration from on high by water and the Spirit. Manifest yourself, O Lord, in this water,
quiet. Those are the exact words a priest would say in a baptism. How do you know them?
I memorized them, sir. I thought them so beautiful and sweet when I heard them in church that I studied them. I can recite the entire baptism service in place, sir.
Incredible. What is your name, boy? Who are you?
I am Athanasius, sir.
Well, Athanasius, what do you think about becoming a priest? Do you think your parents would let you?
Oh, sir, I would love nothing more, and my parents would be thrilled.
It's settled then. You shall become a priest, and I shall train you myself. It is clear the Lord has great plans in store for you, young man.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. That was awesome.
Great
job.
And with that, Athanasius entered the service of the church, being trained by Alexander. All was going well for a time, until one of Athanasius' fellow students, a man by the name of Arius, began teaching something false about God. Alexander tried to deal with him quietly, inviting him to talk together, but Arius arrogantly refused, and ultimately they had to have a public debate on the whole issue.
Well, Arius, state your case.
I said that Jesus is a created being, made by God, but not the same as God. It makes no sense to say that Jesus is God's son unless he had some beginning, some birth. How can we say that Jesus is the same as God if God is his Father? All human sons have a point where they begin to exist.
But no, then no. Do you not see that by saying this, you are making Jesus a created being, less than God?
I do see it, and I think it makes sense. Jesus is a created being, higher than the angels certainly, and higher than man, but less than God.
But what's of the Trinity, which teaches that God is one being with three persons? Yeah. How can Jesus be part of the Trinity if he's a creation of God?
I say that there is no Trinity, that God alone is God, and Jesus is his created Son.
I am sorry, Arius, but I cannot allow you to teach such false things about God. You destroy the foundational teaching of the Trinity. I am sorry to say that you are no longer allowed to preach at your church. You may still serve communion, but I cannot allow these false teachings to spread.
However, despite this action of the court, Arius continued to teach his false beliefs, and they soon spread like wildfire.
It makes more sense, don't you?
Yeah. I've always thought the Trinity was too complicated, that it couldn't be true.
Yeah. We still love Jesus and worship him. Say that he's the same as God. It's too hard to believe. Yeah, I'm with Arius. Me too.
Soon the church was being split by two groups, some Arians, as they began to call themselves, and others, Orthodox Christians, who believed what Christians had always believed, that Jesus is the same as God. Constantine, the emperor of Rome, saw the turmoil in the church and decided to bring it to an end. He called a council at which all the head bishops of the churches would gather. This was the first time anything like this had ever happened, and it was very exciting for many. They met in a city called Nicaea to discuss and debate the issue. Arius came and Alexander, and with him, young Athanasius.
Now, we must be able to come to some kind of agreement about this issue. How many bishops here agree with Arius? And how many with Alexander? What about the rest of you?
I don't know.
Council recognizes Eusebius of Caesarea.
Sire, most of us fail to see what the issue is here. What does it matter in the end whether Christ is created or not, as long as we worship the Christ?
Exactly.
It matters because the doctrine of the Trinity makes no logical sense. Jesus cannot be God's Son at the same time be God. It is completely irrational.
Is Jesus not our Savior? Is he not infinitely powerful? Is he not all-knowing?
No, he is not. He is our model, our example. What it looks like to be a good man, to lead a good life. We honor him for all that he has shown us. He has shown us the way to God, but he is not God himself.
Nicholas, what have you done? You've disturbed the peace of this meeting, sir.
I am sorry, sire, but I could not stand idle while this blasphemer lied so openly about my Savior and spoke of Jesus with such disrespect. I apologize for this loss of temper, but I could not restrain myself from striking the mouth which speaks ill of my Savior. I am sorry. I will retire.
See that you do. And guards, put Nicholas in prison for the night, that he may remember his manners tomorrow. Now, please, gentlemen, this bickering must come to an end. Does anyone have a better suggestion of how to solve this?
Sire, I do. Here, I have a written creed, a statement of belief that will solve this whole issue.
Well, by all means, read it, Eusebius, read it.
Here it is. We believe in one God, Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, and of all things visible and invisible, and in his one Son, Jesus Christ, created by God, and in the Holy Spirit, who proceeds from the Father.
I can affirm that. My side agrees to this creed.
Wonderful. Compromise is a beautiful thing. Thank you, Eusebius, for your words. What does the other side have to say?
How can we agree to such a creed as this? There is not one mention made in it of the real issue here. Is Jesus of the same substance as the Father, one with him? This creed does not say if Jesus is the same as God, only that he is his Son, which both sides agree to, but in vastly different ways.
But this is a compromise, Athanasius. This will bring peace to the church.
It is peace brought at too great a price. For if we agree to this now, then the heresy of Arius will continue to spread. What good is a creed if we cannot cast out the heretics and false teachers? I will never sign it. We must put in it. Which means Jesus is of the same substance as the Father.
What if we only change one letter to that? What if instead we say homoousios, of a similar substance? Jesus is like God, only he is not the same as God.
I agree to that, for Jesus is of a similar substance to the Father.
What of the rest of your party, Athanasius? What do they say?
Yes, a satisfactory addition that can bring us all together. Surely, Athanasius, you can see that this is the only way. No. I will never accept that Jesus is either of the same substance as Jesus or he is not God. There is no other answer.
You will split the church over one letter.
I will, if the church needs to split because half of it is lying about who Jesus is. I will not budge.
You realize that you are standing all alone, Athanasius, against the world.
Then if the whole world stands against me, then I, Athanasius, stand against the world.
Well, then, what are your arguments? Explain to us your view.
Jesus is God's Son, it is true. But he had no beginning, because God is eternal and cannot have a beginning. Is it not true that God is eternal? Yeah.
Indeed.
And does God ever change? No,
he does not.
Then how could God have at one time not been a father and then become a father? Would this not mean that God had changed?
Yes, it would.
And if God had to change, then he cannot be God.
What are you saying?
I say that it is the nature of God to be a father, that he has always been a father to Jesus and always will be. Jesus is he is eternally giving life to Jesus, and Jesus is eternally begotten of him. I suggest that we say, Jesus is begotten of the Father, not made, of one substance with the Father, by whom all things were made.
But Jesus is not of one substance, he's of a similar substance.
What say you, gentlemen? Who votes with Athanasius? And who with Arius? The council has decided it. Athanasius has argued well. Arius will be stripped of your power and exiled. Gone. words of Athanasius of Alexandria.
Yeah.
Now, in reality, the council took much longer than this. The arguments went back and forth for months. Many fierce debates broke out. Nicholas, whom you saw strike Arius, is better known to you as St. Nicholas, the one who inspired the legend of Santa Claus. Yes, that's right. At the Council of Nicaea, Santa Claus punched Arius in the face. However, God revealed the next day that Nicholas had been in the right and he was allowed back in the church and not punished further for his action. Even though Athanasius won, however, the war for him had just begun. Arius and his followers continued to fight against Athanasius tooth and nail, trying in every way to get him exiled and kicked out of the church. They brought false charges to Constantine again and again, seeking to undermine the faithful man.
Sire, have you heard? Athanasius has appointed himself bishop without proper regulations in the night through a secret ceremony.
Sire, have you heard? Athanasius has stolen money from the people of Alexandria to buy himself fancy bishop robes.
Sire, have you heard? Athanasius is trying to steal away your power and make himself a bishop.
Sire, have you heard? Athanasius is trying to stop Grecians to disrupt you and your people.
Sire, have you heard? Athanasius has murdered a bishop to use his body for dark magic. He's an evil wizard.
Enough! Bring him to trial. Eusebius of Nicomedia, I appoint you to oversee this trial. Tell me if these charges are true.
Yes, sir.
And so trial was called, with the charge that Athanasius was guilty of murder. Constantine was not present at this trial, even though Athanasius had defended himself against these accusations before and proved himself innocent. Perhaps the emperor trusted that he would be able to get himself out of trouble again.
Athanasius, you are charged with murdering Arsenius, our fellow bishop, to use his body for dark and magical deeds. How do you plead?
Not guilty.
Bring the evidence. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I present to you our strongest piece of evidence. We have not yet been able to discover the body of Arsenius, which Athanasius has hidden away, but we have here, hacked off by Athanasius, his arm.
This arm was found near the place of the crime, with incriminating evidence pointing to Athanasius as the murderer. It is clear that he intends to use this arm for dark and magical deeds.
Well, Athanasius, what do you have to say to that?
Tell me, do any of you here know Arsenius?
Yeah,
of course. Would you recognize him if you saw him? Yeah. Then tell me if this here is not the man himself.
Well, Athanasius, this is most surprising.
but what of the hand? This is an incriminating piece of evidence.
Excellent question. Let us see. No, still there. And two hands there. What I then want to ask the jury is this. Who is the guilty man who has cut off Arsenius' third hand? I rest my case.
Athanasius is found innocent of all charges against him. Court dismissed.
Even though this was a victory for Athanasius, Eusebius of Nicomedia was able to skew the results of the trial so that Athanasius looked more suspicious than in reality he did. He was able to influence the emperor and make him believe that Athanasius was in fact stopping grain shipments from Rome in an attempt to starve the emperor. Frustrated with all this intrigue, the emperor finally agreed to send Athanasius into exile and bring back Arius. It seemed as though Athanasius had lost. However, God works in mysterious ways. The night before Arius was to go back to the church for the first time since his exile, Alexander got on his knees and prayed.
Dear God, please do not let this blasphemer enter in your house so boldly. You know how he has treated your servant Athanasius and the lies he has told about you. Either strike him dead before tomorrow, or strike me dead.
The next morning came, and a great procession was gathering to bring Arius back to church. He had won. All seemed as though his day of victory had finally arrived. However, on the way, he suddenly stumbled and fell. Others around him looked at him in alarm.
I am fine. Is there a restroom anywhere?
This way, Arius, this way.
He rushed into a nearby restroom, and the crowd outside waited and waited and waited. But he did not come out. Finally, they decided to check on him. And when they did, they found he had died. God had struck down Arius in the bathroom. Bum bum ba-dum, bum ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. Bum bum ba-dum, bum ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. Again, you would think this meant the end of trouble for Athanasius, but the Arians continued to hunt him down. At one point, they tried to arrest him in church, but monks got Athanasius out before the soldiers were able to get to him. Another time, the emperor exiled him, and then sent assassins to follow his boat down the Nile to kill him.
My goodness, is that where the emperor's boat's behind us? It is, Athanasius. Surely the emperor's assassins kill you. Well, if he has, so he has. Let us find out. No sense in running. Turn the ship around. Guys, what's he doing?
He's turning around. He's coming this way. What do we do?
It can't be him. Who would turn around and face killers like us? Hello there. What are you fellas up to? Oh, nothing, sir. Just out for a cruise. Interesting clothes for a cruise.
Yes, these are our...
Fishing clothes, sir. Fishing. Fishing with guns? It's the only way to fish, says my dad.
That's right. More guns, more fish, they always say.
Is that so? It's the only way to fish. Is that so? Well, can I help you with anything else?
Yes, as a matter of fact.
We are looking for Athanasius.
To go fishing with him.
Fishing! Does he use guns too?
Oh, every time, sir.
Oh, yes. Athanasius is a big fish gunner. Is that so? Well, I can tell you for sure, he's not far away. Did you pass him on the river? Where is he? Oh, if you keep rowing, I'm sure you'll find him. I can assure you, he's not far away.
He must be right around the riverbank.
That's right. That's right. Yes, he's not far away. Why, thank you very much, sir. Row in! Row! Good day, gentlemen, and good luck. Happy fishing!
Now, as ridiculous as this sounds, it actually happened, or at least something like it. Time and again, the Lord saved Athanasius from death. In all, he was exiled 5 times, and his life was put in danger hundreds more than that. But he continued to preach the truth and write about the truth, even in the face of all that. At the end of his days, he was able to settle back in Alexandria for 7 years of peace. On his deathbed, he made his final request.
Yes, Father Athanasius, what is it? I want you to do something for me.
Yes, Father, anything.
All my life I have been hunted and pursued, but I have never backed down, because I knew that God would always protect me, no matter the odds.
It is true, Father, that if God is on our side, no one can be against us.
Yes, for that reason, when I die, I want you to write on my tombstone, Athanasius contra mundi.
Athanasius against the world.
Yes, so that everyone will always know it is better to stand with God against the world than with the world against God.
The end.
Well done, well done. What a wonderful creative session here in Mr. Cook. Thank you so much for all your work and your writing. Let's have another round of applause for us.